Now the next part is introduction. Now I have done the research. I've done an excellent research, back pain, use of diclofenac in one group and use of a physiotherapeutic technique in another group. Now I need to write my manuscript. So I start with introduction. So what should be there in the introduction? So introduction, it again depends upon the journal. Some journal will ask you to make subheadings. Some journals say just you write the introduction. So introduction, though we will not have subheadings, but you should know that introduction should have a bit of background about about your research. Okay, back pain is so and so, so and so. This is a common problem in this part of the world, and people get back pain due to following reason and so on. Little you write, maybe one paragraph on background, another paragraph on problem statement. That means what is the problem associated with this back pain? Why there are other methods, there are other medicines and so on, but still back pain is not being cured. But in this research, we have tried using this so and so like that, you know. So what is the problem? What problem made you to conduct this particular research? Why was it necessary for you to conduct a research on back pain? So that thing, you need to mention it. That is your second paragraph. And the third paragraph is rational. What is the rationale behind this research? What is the justification? Was it really necessary to do this study? Yeah, maybe this study is very new. Maybe this study is not done in this country. Maybe this study is not done using this technique. There are studies that use the particular technique, but I have used in this research a newer technique. You got it? So your introduction should have some information on background. You should have some information on problem statement, and the introduction should also have mentioned about justification of research. Often what happens when the students write a manuscript or even in a thesis report, the introduction focus only on background maybe. There's no justification. Or the introduction talks only about background and problem statement, no justification. That means the journal is saying that this study is manuscript doesn't talk properly about introduction, that I will not publish. And please believe me, many times the research that are done by our student researchers are very good. You have done a good research, but it's not getting published. Why? Because you have not written nicely. Maybe the introduction is not written, maybe the discussion is not written, and so on. So I hope it's clear now. The introduction should talk about background of the research, the problem statement related to the research, and the justification. Why was this research needed? And what is the significance? What is this research likely to reveal to the audience? So that's why you need to mention in the introduction. So what is the basic purpose of writing introduction in a research? The purpose is to introduce the readers on the research. When I read the introduction of the research, then I understand, yes, this is what the reason going to be behind why the authors conducted this research. Okay, so introduction is an important component. And please remember, most of the time people read your abstract and introduction. So that's why you need to see how nicely you write the introduction. Sometimes what the students do, they just take the introduction of another journal article, similar study on back pain, just copy and put it here. No, that's not correct. You need to read multiple studies. You need to start making your own introduction, and wherever you feel that it is important to cite some other studies, you cite it. But otherwise, you need to write it by yourself in your own words. You create a story. You see, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, there are story books. Some stories are only 2 pages, but we don't feel like reading it. After 2 or 3 lines, we get bored. Some stories are like 150 pages, but still we do read it completely. Why? Because the storyline is clear. So the author managed to create an interesting story so that others can read. So similarly, when you are writing a manuscript, there should be a storyline, and this storyline is normally created from the introduction. By reading the introduction, it should be in simple language, it should be in good English, it should be very clear, it should be easily understandable, properly cited, and there's a nice storyline. So I would like to read more about this particular manuscript. That's about the introduction. So just to summarize, introduction should talk something about the background of the research. You should talk about the problem statement. You should also talk about the rationale and justification. I would just quickly show you one of the studies, one of the important studies in the physiotherapy, which talks about the and you can see how the introduction looks like. You see, this is a study, the effectiveness of graded motor imagery for reducing phantom limb pain in amputees. It's a RCT, randomized control trial, and it's abstract. Again, if you see objective design and so on, you see here introduction, the author is talking what is phantom limb, and they say that how common it is. It occurs in up to 85% of amputees. And then again they go down, then the author also talks about, you see, talk about the technique that they have used it, because you're talking about imagery. So they are talking about imagery, and like they would explain more about the method they have used. I mean, the background on the method they have used it, how it is important, why the study was important, and so on. So if you clearly look into it, the first part of the manuscript after the abstract is going to be the introduction. Okay, so that's very important. Maybe you can go through any of the article and you can quickly see into the article, and you will realize that the introduction has got some background, some problem statement, and rationale and justification. So this is about the introduction. As I already mentioned, some journals want the objective to be part of the introduction. Some journal says that objective should be separate. The objective should be clear and concise. It should be related to the topic and linked with the research question. When I do a research, I had some objective in my mind. These objectives are linked to my research question. I was like, yes, whether using this physiotherapy method is better than diclofenac. That was my question. So my objective would be to study the impact of so and so physiotherapeutic method in reducing back pain, for example. You got it. So the objective should be clear and concise. It should be related to the topic and linked with the research question. Please remember, the objective is very important thing. It is based on the objective you develop your methodology. So you need to clearly mention your objective. Normally you have maybe 3 or 4 objectives, or maybe 2 or 3 objectives, or maybe 5 objectives maximum. And it is important that all objectives should be achieved in the study. If my objective is to identify the quality of life, and in the results I don't talk about the quality of life, or in the objective I talk about something which has not been in my methodology and in the results, that means it's wrong. So please see that when you have your objective, it should be clear and concise. It should be related to the topic and linked with the research question, and all the objectives that you highlight should be achieved in the study. When I say achieved in the study, that means that based on this objective, you should have developed some methodology, you should have collected the data, you have done the results, and so on. So there's always a line. Please note, this is important point. There should be always a line between your title, introduction, objective, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion. If someone can draw a fine line, that line should pass through all these things in a proper manner. Suppose if there is something that I mentioned in the introduction, but it's not at all there related to my objective, that means it's wrong. Any idea that you present in the manuscript should be matched with all the sections which are there in your manuscript, and you should achieve all the objective in your study.